What's up, everybody? I'm Clayton. You're listening to Ages of Fear podcast number 44, ranking my top 50 favorite horror films of all time. Yes, this is the big one, the one that you guys voted on. It was between this and ranking all 33 movies among the big three slasher franchises: Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. This is the one that won out. This is the one that you guys voted on. So, this is for you guys. Ranking my top 50 favorite horror films of all time. A couple of announcements, some big news for AOF. One of those announcements is we are going to be expanding. So I'm going to be expanding my channel out to include all films of all genres: action, comedy, western, superhero movies, everything. So we're going to be all inclusive now. The names, the initials are still going to stay the same, AOF, but the name of the channel is going to be changing to Ages of Film instead of Ages of Fear. It's no longer going to be exclusively horror. The reason for that primarily is I'm going to be going to film school. I'm starting next week, actually. It's my first week, so I'm going to be studying a lot of different films. Obviously not just horror. So I thought, why not just expand the channel out and start including all types of films as well. So since that's what I'm going to be studying, so I'll still be doing horror. So don't worry. For all of you that have enjoyed the horror content, I will still be doing horror reviews and doing horror content. It just won't be exclusively horror anymore. I will be including other types of films as well. So it's still going to be AOF, but it's changing the name to Ages of Film from here on out. So that's the big news. That's why I wanted to do this video. This is like the last of exclusively horror content that I'll be dropping. So I wanted to do something big and fun for you guys. Also, I want to say what's up to any new subscribers I have. Thank you very much for being here, for hitting that subscribe button, helping out the channel. I greatly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I love all you guys. I feel very humbled by the fact that you guys would choose to tune in to listen to what I have to say about these movies. Thank you very much. It means a lot. If you're new to my channel, if you would just smash that like button, helps the channel out. And if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and subscribe as well. It's another way to support the channel. And then just a few recommendations. I'm going to drop the YouTube channel logos for the channels that I recommend somewhere down here for you guys to see. Movies and Beyond, The Bearded Entertainment, Brian Lomax movie channel. Those are the other three channels that I recommend to everyone to go check out. Subscribe to their channels, give them some support and some love. I've had all those guys on the channel. So if you've been with me for any given time, you probably have come across them or heard me talk about them. Their YouTube channel logos will be somewhere down here for you guys to check out. So go do that. Help out their channels as well. All right, so getting into this video, just a couple of ground rules here for this video. The first thing I want to say, just as a reminder, this is just my opinion. This is my list. This isn't the right list. This doesn't have to be your list. This is just my top 50 favorites. So if there's something that is left off of this list that you think should be on the list, create your own list and include the film that you want on there. Let me know if you guys want to get freaky and do a top 50 horror films yourselves and put it in the comment section. I'll look at them. I will. I look at the comments. I see what you freaks are doing. So if you want to, spice it up and do one yourself, I'll definitely check it out. Don't feel like you have to, because 50 films is a lot of freaking movies. But yeah, just as a reminder, guys, this is just my list. So don't come at me saying I'm wrong on my list, or that, I left something out that should be in there, or I have something in there that shouldn't be. There's nothing missing. Nothing missing on this list. Nothing that's in this list that shouldn't be in this list. This is my list. All right. My 50 favorites. Also, I want to just specify that I'm keeping this strictly horror films. So there are movies out there that a lot of people would argue are horror films, that you would probably see on a lot of other people's lists, that are not going to be on this list, because I personally do not view those movies as horror movies. So just a few examples for you guys. Seven, Zodiac, Predator, Shaun of the Dead. These are some movies, just a few examples of movies that are often included on horror lists that you will not be seen on my list, because I don't see those movies as horror movies. To me, the dominant genre should be horror. That's what makes a horror movie. If the dominant genre is horror, it's a horror movie. But for those movies that I mentioned, I feel like a different genre is the dominant of those movies. Predator, for example. I've always viewed Predator as an action movie. Yes, there are horror elements to it. Yes, I can understand why some people see it as horror, but for me, I've always viewed and thought of Predator as an action movie. Predominantly, action is the dominant genre of that movie. Even as a teenager, growing up talking about that movie with friends and stuff, we always talked about it as an action movie. So Predator's not going to be on here. To me, that's an action movie. Seven, Zodiac, those are crime dramas, in my opinion. So there are some very notable films that you do see come up and on people's lists sometimes that will not be included on my list, because I don't view them as horror movies. I view them as movies of a different genre. So just in case you guys are wondering, and come at me in the comment section saying, why wasn't Seven on here? Or why wasn't Predator on here? I love those movies. I do. I love those movies. But I just don't see them as horror movies. So yeah, all 50 of these movies are movies that I feel like are predominantly horror movies. So yeah, there you go. Those are the ground rules for this list. We're going to start from the bottom, number 50, and we're going to work our way up to number 1. Number 1, you guys probably already know what it's going to be. If you've been with my channel for any length of time, I've talked about it many times. So it should be no surprise. You guys probably can figure it out. But 2 through 50, you don't know what's coming. I mean, I could be throwing a seed of Chucky at you. You never know. You never know what's around the corner. So yeah, it should be fun. Again, this is for you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get into my top 50 favorite horror movies of all time. This will probably be a longer video because we got 50 movies to get through. I'm not going to spend very long on them because yeah, I've got other things to do. So here we go. Number 50, we have The Invisible Man from 2020. This is a remake, a very good remake, taking a concept and an idea that on paper might seem very outdated and very old and wouldn't work, and they modernize it. And they modernize it for a modern audience, and they actually pull it off. I've seen this multiple times. I've recommended it to people, and quite frankly, everyone who I've recommended it to have come back and told me that they really loved it, and liked it a lot. So, yeah, Invisible Man's a great movie. A lot of tension. The opening is fantastic, and yeah, solid film. Great remake. I love it. It's my number 50. Moving on to number 49, we have The Collector from 2009. Home invasion kind of slasher movie. The Collector is kind of a new face in the slasher subgenre. This was a fun movie. I love the actor who is the lead role in this movie. His name escapes me right now. Not the Collector, but the main guy that we're following throughout this movie. I really like him as an actor. He's been in a number of things that I really liked. This is a fun movie. Some good RIPs. Some very vicious scenes, vicious kills. I think the Collector is a savage. He's a guy that doesn't mess around. He's not a guy you want to encounter, but a very effective killer nonetheless. Really enjoy this movie. Both this one and The Collection, I enjoy quite a bit. They were going to do a third movie called The Collected. Never got finished. I don't know if we'll ever get it in the future, but if we do, I'm on board, because I did enjoy both the Collector and The Collection. But The Collector, this first one, is definitely one of my favorites. I have it down here at number 49. Moving on to 48, we have The Black Coat's Daughter. This one came out 2015, I think it was. And I'm pretty sure it was 2015, because it came out the same year It Follows came out. And a lot of people were raving about It Follows. I've reviewed It Follows. I do like the movie, but to me, The Black Coat's Daughter was the better horror film, the best horror film of that year, in my opinion. So, solid movie, kind of a witch, paranormal type of movie, following these two girls. You find out that, there's some really dark stuff going on with these two girls that kind of plays out throughout the movie. And there are some really, just bone-chilling scenes in the movie, that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. But I love this movie. Great storytelling, great performances. I love it. Black Coat's Daughter is my number 48. Number 47, we have a classic from the 70s, The Omen. The original Omen movie. This is a movie that the first time I saw it, I didn't think I was going to like it. I sat down and watched it the first time, and I loved it. I loved it. And I think I went back and watched it a second time that same week, and loved it even more. So, yeah, it still holds up for a movie that's, near 50 years old now. It still holds up. I think it's a great movie. It's definitely my favorite of the Omen franchise. Very disturbing scenes in it. The window scene with the lady, it's all for you, Damien. It's all for you. And then she just, if you've seen the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about. Some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Really interesting story about what is the right thing to do if you find out that your son is essentially the Antichrist and may very well be possessed and taken over by the devil himself. What do you do as the parent in that situation? So, yeah, really great movie. I love it. I always recommend it to people who are looking for an older movie from that era to check out. If you haven't seen The Omen, go check it out. It is my number 47. Moving on to 46, we have Halloween Kills. Now, this might be a shocker to some people that this movie cracked my top 50, but if you know me and you know the kind of Halloween fan that I am, it really shouldn't be that big of a surprise. I mean, Michael Myers is my favorite movie character. Not just my favorite slasher, he's my favorite movie character. I love Michael, he's my boy. And to me, Halloween Kills nails that character. We get a savage Michael with his highest RIP count, highest body count yet. He is snapping necks and cashing checks all through this movie. And I love it. I love the look of Michael. I love the mask. I love the performance by James Jude Courtney. I love the kills. I love how they use Michael. I think they execute him perfectly well. Is this a perfect movie? No. Are there issues with the movie? Absolutely. But that's just one part of the equation when it comes to your overall assessment of the movie. The filmmaking quality is just one part of it. Another part is your experience and your personal subjective feeling about the movie. What does it do for you as a viewer? And for me, this movie gets me amped up. I love this movie because I love Michael and I love how they use him. So for me, this movie is it's in my top 50. Being the Michael fan that I am, getting the badass version of Michael that we get, this is my number 46. Moving on to number 45, we have another classic. This one from the 90s. That's Candyman. Tony Todd giving us another iconic horror character in Candyman. There weren't too many great horror movies in the from the early 90s before Scream. This is one of those exceptions. This is one that stands on its own as an iconic film, iconic performance, great story, great performance, and it's a banger. It's a banger. I don't think any of the sequels, and certainly not the remake, even remotely touch what this original one was. Quite frankly, I don't know that it really ever needed a sequel or a remake, but Hollywood's going to do what they can to make a buck. So, yeah, but Candyman, great movie. I love it. I got it at number 45. Moving on to number 44, we have Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I love this movie. I saw this again recently. This is just a fun movie. It's just fun from start to finish. It's just a blast. I'm not the biggest Jason guy, but I love a lot of the Friday movies. This is one of my favorites. I think C.J. Graham is an outstanding Jason. He's very aggressive. He's very intimidating. I love, the atmosphere here. This is the first movie we get with zombie Jason. We get some great shots of Jason. Great characters in this movie. Very likable. Very entertaining. And the final act is one of the best final acts in any Friday movie. You get Jason and Tommy on the lake surrounded by fire. I mean, that's got all the makings of a good time. So yeah, I love this movie. Friday Part 6 comes in at 44. Moving up to 43, we have our first creature feature on this list, and that is Pumpkinhead. From 1988, the original Pumpkinhead, a classic as far as I'm concerned. A great creature design with the Pumpkinhead creature. We get a great story. Pumpkinhead it's kind of this he's kind of the Grim Reaper in a sense. He comes for your soul. Lance Henriksen does a great job. One of his best performances, I think. It's got some heart to it. It's scary. It's dark. The witch in this movie, I ain't trying to mess with her. She's one of the scarier characters in horror movies as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I love this first Pumpkinhead. It's one of my favorites. I got it here at number 43. Number 42, we have Child's Play, the original Child's Play, the first Chucky movie, the one that introduced us to Charles Lee Ray and Chucky character. This is my favorite Chucky movie. I'm not the biggest Child's Play fan. I'm not the biggest Chucky fan, but I do love this first movie. It's a classic. It's one of the best out there in my opinion. And this is one I never get tired of. I can go back to this original Child's Play often and still enjoy it. So yeah, original Child's Play. Original Child's Play is my number 42. Yeah, and I still think it's the best. I know a lot of people love Part 2. You have your Bride of Chucky fans. And 2 is good. I do like 2. Didn't really care for Bride of Chucky. There's a couple others that I do like. I really liked Curse of Chucky as well. But yeah, this OG is still the best in my opinion. So it is my number 42. Coming in at number 41, we have Final Destination from 2000. The first of this franchise, and I still think it's the best. I think it was the most creative and the most effective, especially that opening, on the airplane, something that everyone can relate to. Most people, I don't know about most, but a lot of people know about, the fear of flying. And this one hits on that fear of flying, it's just a very interesting concept of making death the actual killer in the movie. A killer that no one can escape, because no one can escape death ultimately. You might be able to delay it, you might be able to fight it off for a little bit, but eventually it's going to get you. So yeah, really interesting concept. I like the characters here. They have some heart, some emotion to them. They're entertaining. I can get behind them. And yeah, I really enjoy the first Final Destination. I have it at number 41. Moving on to number 40, Pet Sematary, the original Pet Sematary, 1989 classic. Another great movie that I love, grew up with. I think Zelda is one of the most, disturbing and kind of unsettling characters. She's actually played by a guy in real life. Fun little fact there. But yeah, I think this movie has a lot of layers to it. It really deals with the whole idea of, bringing people back from the dead, and what are the ramifications of that. If you could do that, should you do that? There's a lot of things that we can do, but just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean we should. And this kind of uses that in regards to bringing loved ones back. If we could do that, would we really want to? And would they really be the same person that we knew and loved? And I think it's a really interesting concept that's executed brilliantly, and super rewatchable for me. I love the first original Pet Sematary. It's one of my favorites. I got it number 40. Moving on to number 39. Let me look at my list here. 39, I have Peeping Tom, the original slasher movie. I'm a big slasher fan. Slasher movies are my probably my favorite subgenre of horror. Big slasher fan. This was really kind of the birth of the slashers. You had Peeping Tom and Psycho released the same year in 1960. But a lot of people credit Peeping Tom as the first true, legitimate slasher film. And I love this movie. I find the killer very entertaining, a very interesting killer. He's this photographer slash cinematographer who's trying to make his own films, but is obsessed with the kind of setting up of the kill and with his victims and seeing their reactions to what he's doing. And as the movie plays out, you start finding out more of these disturbing facts about this killer and how messed up he really is. And great performances. I think a really fascinating concept and story. Very rewatchable for me. I love Peeping Tom. I don't think it gets mentioned as often as it should among slasher fans, but it's an absolute classic, and I love it. I got it top 40, sitting here at number 39 for me. Moving on to number 38, I have my favorite vampire movie, Fright Night. Yes, you're so cool, Brewster. Charlie Brewster gets a neighbor moving in next door that ends up being a vampire, and the vampire tries to steal Charlie's girlfriend, so he's got to protect her. But it's a little much for Charlie to chew off of, so he's got to call up Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer, and they form the dynamic duo to go fight off this vampire. Great movie. I love it. I grew up with this one. And I think I've pretty much settled on Fright Night being my favorite vampire movie. I used to go back and forth between this one and The Lost Boys. I do love The Lost Boys as well, but I think I finally settled on Fright Night being my favorite vampire movie. It's just so rewatchable, so much fun, a lot of nostalgia with it as well. I love all the tropes, vampire tropes that they kind of play with in this movie as well. I'm not a vampire fan. Anyone who's been kicking it with me for a while knows I'm a werewolf guy. I love werewolves. You're gonna see multiple werewolf movies on this list. So yeah, the whole vampire werewolf rivalry. I've always been more on the werewolf side. So yeah, there are some good vampire movies. This is one of them. I love it. I got it number 38. So moving on to number 37, we have a John Carpenter movie. Not the only John Carpenter movie you're going to see on this list, but I'm going with Prince of Darkness. A movie, I think an underrated Carpenter movie. One that I don't hear mentioned all that often. But I think it should be. I think it's a great, a really fun concept and idea that Carpenter just, you put this idea, the apocalypse coming, the end of the world coming, and you give that to Carpenter to play with and to, visualize and then you add the right pieces, the right actors in there. You get, Donald Pleasance in this movie, who does a great job. And I love this movie. I absolutely love it. Alice Cooper, makes an appearance if you're an Alice Cooper fan. But it's a great movie. I love it. Definitely one of my favorites from Carpenter, and it's number 37 for me. Moving on to number 36, we get a movie that I almost get the feeling that I may be the only fan of this film that's left. I don't know, because it just seems like everyone that I talk to about this movie hates this movie and think it's just garbage. I don't know why, but number 36 for me is When a Stranger Calls, the remake from 2006. I love this movie, guys. I make no apologies for that. You like what you like. I love this movie. I think it's very effective in what it tries to do. It pulls off what it's trying to do very effectively. I think it does very good at handling the suspense and the tension building. A good final girl that's very likable, smart as well. A survivor. A very interesting killer that you don't actually see until the very end. And yeah, I love it. I saw this as a kid and didn't want to answer a phone for a long time. So I don't get the hate of this movie. I don't get it. I don't see it. Maybe someone can try to explain it to me, but I love this movie. And I don't apologize for that. It's number 36 on my list. Moving on to 35, we have 28 Weeks Later. One of only 2 zombie movies that you'll see on this list. I'm not the biggest zombie guy, never have been. They're really not that interesting to me. But when a zombie film is done right, it can definitely work and it can definitely be effective. This is one of those zombie films that I think is done right. It's well cast. I'm a big Jeremy Renner fan. I love Jeremy Renner as an actor. He's great in this movie. I actually prefer this one over 28 Days Later. I think this one is it looks better. It's shot better. I like the cast better. I'm not a big Cillian Murphy fan, so I would definitely take Jeremy Renner over Cillian Murphy. I think this one also has more heart to it. The third act and what happens there with Jeremy Renner, I think it's got an emotional heartbeat to it, and that I don't think is in 28 Days Later. That being said, I do like 28 Days Later, but to me, I think 28 Weeks is definitely the better of the two, more rewatchable of the two, and for me, it takes the nod. It sits here at number 35, one of a couple zombie movies that I do truly love. Moving on to number 34, I'm going with The Strangers from 2008. Another kind of home invasion psychological movie with a lot of cool stuff in it. Not really a slasher movie because this is more of a family involved in the killing, not just one person. But I think they pull it off. I think it's executed well. I think the mask looks really creepy. The one guy with the mask. I think, it's creepy. It's scary if you put yourself in that situation. Likeable characters. I think, I think they pulled it off. They did do a sequel. But The Strangers, this first one is one that I go back to a lot. I have a blast with this movie. So, I love it. To me, it's one of my favorites and one of the best home invasion movies in my opinion. So it sits here at number 34. Coming in at number 33 might be a surprise to some people. I don't know if anyone's going to see this one coming. I'm actually going with Alice, Sweet Alice from the 1970s. Dude, I love this movie. It is so much fun. It's so just bonkers crazy. So much crazy stuff in it. It's not for everybody. I know some people that just don't care for it at all. It definitely has to be your cup of tea. It's got to be, it's got to fit your taste in order for you to like it. Of course, that can kind of be said about any type of movie, but yeah, I think you should give it a shot. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot, and you may be surprised, how you feel about it. But yeah, I love this movie, guys. Love it. Love the characters. Love the story. Love the twist in the movie. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. It's number 33 for me. Moving on to number 32, I got Trick or Treat from 2007. The movie that I've probably been most anxious to see a sequel to, that we haven't gotten a sequel to. And that may end up being for the best, because it seems like the more sequels we get of a franchise, we also get a lot of lows. And I certainly wouldn't want this franchise to get tarnished by really poor sequels. But I love this movie so much. I have so much fun with it. I would enjoy seeing more and seeing another film of it. But yeah, great characters, a lot of fun. There's some real humorous, funny moments in it. Some really dark, scary moments, and it gives me, it feeds my werewolf fandom and gives me some werewolves. So you give me a great Halloween setting, tone, atmosphere with a couple of good laughs, some great characters, and you throw in some werewolves in there. I'm sold. I'm in. I'm checking in. So yeah, I love Trick or Treat, man. I have a blast with this movie. It's a lot of fun. I love it. Moving on to 31, we have Army of Darkness. We have an Evil Dead movie. This is my favorite Evil Dead film. I like all the Evil Deads, quite frankly. I don't think they have a bad film. All 5 movies are movies that I can be entertained by, movies that I enjoy. This is my favorite of the 5, however. I think this is peak Ash. Bruce Campbell at his best. I love the character of Ash. Very quotable movie with some great one-liners. Give me some sugar, baby. Yeah, I love this movie, man. This is probably the one movie of all of these that you could make the best argument maybe belongs more in comedy than horror. But I think it finds itself established in a horror franchise. And I do think it's the horror theme and tone that drives this movie. And I think it's Bruce Campbell's natural personality that brings levity to the movie. But I still see it and think of it as a horror movie. And it's my favorite Evil Dead movie. So yeah, I love it. It's number 31 for me. Coming in at number 30, we're going back to my boy Michael. I'm going with Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I love this movie. It is so rewatchable and so much fun. I love Rachel. It's one of my favorite final girls in this franchise. Jamie is a great character. We get peak Loomis with some great Loomis lines in this movie. The suspense and the tension building up to Michael returning. is executed brilliantly. It's very entertaining. Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And a great ending. One of the best endings. Arguably the best ending in a Halloween movie. With Jamie on top of the steps and Loomis when he sees her. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Love Halloween 4. One of my favorites in the franchise. It's number 30 on my list. Coming in at number 29, we have The Sixth Sense. I still think this is M. Night Shyamalan's best film to date. I think it's got a lot of heart to it. It's very well acted. We get Bruce Willis as kind of the lead character here. I think he does a great job playing the psychiatrist. And we get the kid, I forget his name in the movie, but he does a great job for a child actor. One of the best child acting performances that's out there, I think. And yeah, great stuff in it. A horror movie that actually has a really well conceived and put together script and story, and actually has a lot of heart to it as well. So I love The Sixth Sense. My favorite movie, horror movie from 1999. It's just a brilliant concept and very well executed. So yeah, it is my number 29. 28, I'm going with Dawn of the Dead. Zack Snyder version, the remake from 2004. This is my favorite zombie movie. I love this movie. It's so much fun. I love the setting in this giant mall with all these characters. They're likable. They're entertaining. A lot of fun zombie action. Some really scary, scenes in it. And I think they nailed it, man. I'm not that big on the original Dawn of the Dead, the George A. Romero one. I've seen it maybe twice, and I'm just not. I don't really care for it. But the Zack Snyder version, he blows it out of the water, man. Love this movie. Very rewatchable, and it's my favorite zombie movie. It's number 28 on this list. So, yeah, there you go. Coming in at number 27, we have The Descent from 2005. Crazy movie. If you're claustrophobic, this is probably not the film for you. But yeah, a group of just badass women characters that go cave diving and come across some creatures that aren't necessarily the most friendly. I'll just leave it at that. If you haven't checked out The Descent, get on it. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. The Descent, number 27. Coming in at number 26, we have It from 2017. Dude, so I'm just going to say, I love all three It movies. The original It has my favorite Pennywise version of Pennywise by Tim Curry, who genuinely terrified me as a kid. I had nightmares about him. To me, he will always be the definitive Pennywise. But as a movie and as a viewing experience, I enjoyed the 2017 remake quite a bit more. I love the kids in this movie. I love their chemistry. I think it's very well shot, very well made. It's got a very good script, well-written script, and story to it. And I do think Bill Skarsgård does a good job as Pennywise. He doesn't try to mimic Tim Curry. He makes that character his own, does a good job. I love it. I love it. I love Chapter 2 as well. I used to actually have Chapter 2 above Chapter 1, which sounds crazy. But as I've gone back and rewatched it, multiple times and actually thought through things more, I'm like, I don't know why I had part 2 over part 1. So this is one that I've turned around on. But yeah, I love it. It's number 26 for me. Coming in at number 25, another slasher icon, Freddy Krueger, making an appearance with the original Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie had a huge impact on me as a kid. Loved Freddy Krueger. Loved this original Nightmare. It's still my favorite of this franchise. Very iconic. Great concept for a killer who haunts you in your dreams. There's no escape from him. When you close your eyes, Freddy's going to be there waiting for you. And yeah, there's no escaping from him. He's a different kind of boogeyman. And I think he's very effective. I love this movie. Loved watching it growing up. And Freddy's one of my favorite horror characters. He's in my top 5. So in this original Nightmare movie, still badass. I love it. It's number 25 for me. Coming in at number 24, a movie that I've already reviewed on this channel, The Wolfman 2010 remake with Benicio del Toro, Sir Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, Hugo Weaving, I think is his last name. Great movie. I've said it multiple times. I'm a werewolf fanatic. I love werewolves. They're my favorite mythical creatures. I just think there's something that's so crazy and so just badass about a person just turning into a werewolf. There's just something that's so gnarly, so savage about that. And yeah, I've always loved werewolves. And this Wolfman remake gives me everything I want in a werewolf movie. A great looking werewolf, practical effects. Rick Baker comes back and knocks it out of the park with the effects in this movie. Great performances, a good story. It's got some heart, and it's got some savage kills that are just awesome RIPs. So love the Wolfman. It's number 24 for me. Coming in at number 23, I have Paranormal Activity, the original. This movie did a number on me the first time I saw it. It genuinely scared me. I think, I don't mind found footage movies when they're done right, when, you had good performances in it and it's well put together, well made. This is one of those that checks those boxes for me. And if you've ever had paranormal type encounters or experiences as I have, this movie can do a number on you. And yeah, I love it. I still think it's the best of that franchise. I love it. It's number 23. Moving on to number 22, we have a guy that we've already seen one of his movies on this list. He's coming back for another round, Mr. Jason Voorhees, with Friday the 13th remake from 2009. I've said it multiple times on this channel. This is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. I love this movie. It to me gets everything right. It's got my favorite Jason, Derek Mayers, great looking Jason, great kills, great cast of characters. The tone and the atmosphere is just spot on. I love this movie, and quite frankly, I don't get the criticisms that I've heard people throw at this movie from a lot of Friday fans that hold this movie back. Like I've heard some Friday fans have this as like their bottom 3 or 4, which just blows my mind that you could have 3/4 of a third of the Friday movies above this one. To me, it's just it's ridiculous. We like what we like. I get it. I'm not judging anyone, but to me, and my reasoning factors, I don't see what there's not to like about this movie. If you're a Friday fan, it gives you great Jason, great kills, great tone, great atmosphere. Yeah, Jason has a hostage. Big deal, you know. They're just expanding on the character. That's all that is. It's not, you know, it's not hurting the character in any way. They're not making a parody of the character. They're not pulling a Halloween Resurrection and just making a joke of the Jason character. All it is expanding on the character and adding something new to what that character does. I see no problem with that. To me, this is the best Friday movie. It's one of my favorites all time. Number 22 for me. Moving on to number 21, we have another movie I just reviewed, Christine. Another John Carpenter classic. Love this movie. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I've already done a full review of it, given my in-depth thoughts, broken it down and everything. So you can go check out that review if you want, you know, my in-depth thoughts on it. But just know I'm a huge fan of this movie. This is John Carpenter in his prime when he couldn't miss, man. An awesome car, awesome looking car, great soundtrack. Shout out the Destroyers. Yeah, love Christine, man. Anytime you want to come by and you know, throw Christine on, I'm game. Let's do it. It's number 21 for me. Coming in at number 20, we have, and I'm just going to say from here on out, all 20 of these movies are 5-star films. So, you know, even though I have these next couple movies, 19, 20, all 20 of these bad boys are 5-star films for me. So I love all of these movies to death and back. My number 20 is Scream, the original Scream, Wes Craven classic. In my opinion, this is Wes Craven's masterpiece. This is his best film, in my opinion. It did so many creative and innovative things, tipping the typical slasher formula on its head, where all the main protagonist characters get killed off and you have the killer return. This one flips it. The killers are the ones that are killed off and the main characters are the ones that keep returning. And just a brilliant concept and a brilliant idea. Super fun, great moments of levity, but also has a dark horror tone to it as well. Very rewatchable. This first Scream is still my favorite of the franchise, and it's number 20 for me. Coming in at number 19, we have Carrie from 1976, the original Carrie. Another movie from the 70s that I love. I hang out a lot in the 70s. They've got a lot of movies, horror movies that I love. Some of my all-time favorites from the 70s. Carrie's another one, another banger from the 70s, man. Great story, great performances. We've all seen Carrie. We know what it's about. It's had a few remakes that don't even touch that original, in my opinion. But yeah, love this movie, man. Super rewatchable and an awesome third act when all the bullies finally get what they had coming to them. It's great. I love Carrie. It's number 19 for me. Coming in at number 18, we have Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's classic, also from 1960. Granddaddy of slasher movies is Psycho. Norman Bates, one of the iconic horror characters. Anthony Perkins just becomes an instant legend, and deservedly so. I just saw this movie again recently. Love it. Super rewatchable. Very well thought out. And it's got a great script, great performances, and was ahead of its time, quite frankly, in my opinion. So Psycho comes in at number 18. Coming in at number 17, we have The Conjuring 2. Yes, this, in my opinion, is the best of the Conjuring universe. I love the first one. I do. I think the first two Conjuring movies are badass. I love both of them. But to me, the second one takes the nod in the franchise. I think this one is a little more scarier. I think it's a little bit better directed. I think it's got a little bit more heart to it as well, with the daughter being the one that's her soul's at stake here. And yeah, I just, I love this movie. I love both of the first two Conjuring movies. This one just did a little bit more for me personally. It had a little bit stronger of an impact, had a little bit more of emotion to it. And I find it a little bit more rewatchable as well. So, take nothing away from the first one. I love it. Got mad respect for it. But to me, Conjuring 2, the best of that universe. It's number 17 on my list. Coming at number 16, we have The Crow, 1994. Brandon Lee, R.I.P. man. One of the GOATs. Yeah, I love The Crow, man. This is another one a lot of people debate whether or not it's really horror or not. I would argue it is, especially when you consider what's actually happening in this movie and you actually think about the story and the plot. It's a horror movie and very dark tone as well. But The Crow is just, it's an awesome world and creation. A great look, great makeup to Brandon Lee's character. Some good action in it. Great characters. I love The Crow, man. Absolutely love it. It's a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. And I'll just say this. It's a movie that should never be touched. And I personally don't think ever needed a remake. Moving on to number 15, we have The Exorcism of Emily Rose. This is your homework assignment, everyone. If you have not seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, go watch it tonight. That's your homework assignment. This movie is fantastic. Great story that's based on a real life case and a real life story. They do stay very true to it and stay very accurate to the actual story as well, which I like. But we get great performances in this movie, great tone, great pacing. This movie it's about a 2-hour movie that really just kind of flies by for me. Very rewatchable. And just got so much heart to it, especially in the third act. When you see the strength that Emily has within her soul, there's a moment where she comes to the crossroads and she's got to make a decision. The decision that she makes is just so powerful and deep and raw. I love this movie, man. I love it. It's number 15 for me. Coming in at number 14, we have Sinister from 2012 with Ethan Hawke, my boy. Love Ethan Hawke. Just everything that I've seen him in. He's money. He brings it. And Sinister, dude, I love Sinister. I was thinking about doing a review of it. Let me know in the comment section if you would like to see a review of Sinister. This movie is dark. It's dark. It's dark. Got a great villain in it. Got a great story. A lot of people overlook the deeper story in this movie. This movie that actually has a message. Actually has, a pretty strong message to it. That I think a lot of people don't quite see. But yeah, it's got a lot of heart. It really does. Great story, great characters and performances. Love Sinister. It's number 14 for me. Coming in at number 13, we have Jeepers Creepers, where did you get those eyes? Jeepers Creepers, the original. Love this movie. I can watch what's his name, Justin Long, in anything. I could watch him in a 15-minute, stand-up comedy session, and he's got so much energy and charisma to him. I think him and his sister have great chemistry in this movie. I totally buy in to their brother-sister relationship. The Creeper is amazing. Great look. He's also in my top 5 for favorite horror characters. Love the Creeper, man. He's a savage, especially when you find out what exactly he's been doing. Great stuff, man. Jeepers Creepers, number 13 for me. Coming in at number 12, we're going back to Mr. Carpenter, John Carpenter's The Thing. I'm not the biggest sci-fi guy. This is one exception. Love this movie. Love Kurt Russell as McCready. Group of guys in this research facility up north in the Arctic cold. They got to learn to get along. It's this, story about trust and the lack of trust that we have in each other, and what that can lead to if you don't form any true relationship with anyone. Bad things can happen. And super fun, super rewatchable. Some of the best practical effects you'll ever see in a horror movie. John Carpenter he's the GOAT of horror movies for a reason. In my opinion, John Carpenter's the greatest horror director of all time. You can dispute that. That's fine. Not going to change my mind on it. I love The Thing. It's number 12. Coming at number 11, we have Black Christmas. Another early slasher film from the 70s. Came out the same year that Texas Chainsaw Massacre did. Quite frankly, for me, my money, I think Black Christmas was the better of the two. Billy, very effective killer. Great opening act. The POV shot. Very rewatchable. Always a fun one to throw on for the holidays. I watch it multiple times a year, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Never get tired of it. Very rewatchable. Love it. It's number 11. That brings us into our top 10. Into my top 10. And with number 10, going back to my boy, Michael. I'm going with Halloween 2018. What do I need to say? It's great. It's phenomenal. James Hugh Courtney is my favorite Michael Myers. He brings the grace and the glide of with the movements of Michael that Nick Castle had in the original, along with the ferocity and the brutality of Tyler Mane's Michael from Rob Zombie's version. Brings those two together and gives us, in my opinion, the best version of Michael that we've gotten. Love the mask, love the look, love the usage, love just, the characters, the score. Probably my favorite Halloween score in this movie by John Carpenter. I love it. I remember seeing the trailer for this one when that initial trailer dropped, and I was 8 years old again, and I could not wait for this movie to come out, and I loved it when it did. So Halloween 2018 is my number 10. Coming in at number 9, another movie that I've reviewed with Brian. Actually, Brian Lomax and I reviewed The Shining, with Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece with Jack Nicholson. Love The Shining. I've already discussed it in depth, so go check out Brian and I's conversation on The Shining. for my further thoughts on it. But yeah, very rewatchable, classic, great, one of the best performances you'll see in a horror movie by Jack Nicholson. Yeah, love The Shining. It's number 9 for me. Coming in at number 8, going back to my werewolves here with American Werewolf in London. One of the best horror movies ever made. If someone wants to argue that it is the best horror movie ever made, you'll hear no quarrels from me. I love this movie. Can watch it anytime. I've heard some people say it's just a love story. There's not much to it. I would beg to differ. I think there is a lot of layers to this movie. A lot of really deeper stuff in the story here that I could get into if I did a review of it. But yeah, really dark scenes too. Some really, spine-tingling scenes in the movie. The single best werewolf transformation we've ever gotten on screen is in this movie. That alone gets it a lot of points for me. So, love American Werewolf in London. It's number 8 on my list. Coming in at number 7, we have Alien by Ridley Scott. There are people that love Alien and there are people that love Aliens. I'm more of an Alien guy. I think this is the more true horror movie of the two. Aliens, I would argue, is more of an action movie. Alien, I would argue, is more of a horror film. And is one of my favorite horror movies. The face huggers, the xenomorph, the characters. You get Ripley, one of the other greatest final girls, in my opinion. I love Alien. Had a huge impact on me when I first saw it. It sits at number 7. Coming in at number 6, another movie that I've reviewed on my channel, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake. Yes, for my money, probably the best remake, horror remake of all time. I've already gone in depth on this one as well, so I won't spend too much time on it. But it's a masterpiece. Best Leatherface and Andrew Bernarski. Best tone and atmosphere, best directed, best group of characters. Love it. It's number 6 for me. Coming in at number 5, we have another classic from the 70s, The Exorcist. Yeah, the movie that has had the single biggest horror impact on me of any horror film. This movie, it scared me so much the first time I saw it. I literally did not come back to this movie for another decade, for another 10 years. Since then, I've watched it multiple times, and I've found that this movie it actually does have a lot of heart to it, especially in that third act. What happens with the priest and the girl Reagan? It's actually a really beautiful story there, and actually does have packs a lot of emotional punch to it. But just a great character dive into this priest character and into Reagan. I think it actually has a lot to say about, some spiritual stuff. But yeah, I love The Exorcist. It's not a movie I can go back to a lot. But that is a compliment to that movie because it did its job and did what it was intended to do. I love it. It's number 5 on my list. Bringing us into the top 5, number 4, a movie that I've talked about a lot on my channel, The Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins brings us arguably the best performance of any horror movie and any horror character of all time. Such an iconic performance, but even the performances by everyone else. Jodie Foster does a great job as Agent Starling. Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill. Fantastic, very quotable movie. It rubs the lotion on its skin or else gets the hose again. Great stuff, man. I mean, who doesn't love quoting Silence of the Lambs? Great stuff, man. Love this movie to death and back. I never get tired of it. I could throw it on right now and enjoy it. So, yeah, Silence of the Lambs, number 4 for me. It's a major banger and a classic. Coming in at number 3, I'm going back to my werewolves with my favorite werewolf movie of all time, you freaks. Dog Soldiers, son. Get on it if you haven't. Dog Soldiers, my favorite werewolf movie. Guys, dude, I can't speak enough positive things about Dog Soldiers. It's not for everybody, but if you're a werewolf fan, I promise you're gonna love this movie. It gives you everything that you want in a werewolf movie. Awesome kills, awesome characters, awesome tone, great story, has some heart to it. It's got some of the most likable characters of any horror movie, in my opinion. Every character in this movie is entertaining. The group of soldiers that we're bunkered down with, from Spoon to Sarge, they're all great. Jackson. I love this movie, man. I love this movie. I've been trying to get Michael from Movies and Beyond to watch this movie for a while now. Michael, if you're watching this, Dog Soldiers, man. Dog Soldiers. Get on it. Yeah, I love it. It's number 3 for me. Bringing us into the final 2 of this video. You guys probably already know what my number 1 is. My number 2 is Jaws, Steven Spielberg's masterpiece. One of the best, not just horror movies, one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. This is a horror movie. I know some people argue it's not. It was marketed as a horror movie when it first came out. The original poster says, "Don't go swimming." If you watch the original trailer, it was presented as a horror movie. This is a horror film, and it should be on your horror list as well. It's one of the best ever. One of the best monologues in any horror movie by Quint. There at night when they're talking about their different stories, and he shares the story of the USS Indianapolis. If that doesn't sell you on Jaws, you're hopeless. Yeah. I've grown up with this movie and have loved it ever since I was a kid. Yeah, Jaws is Jaws, man. I say more. It's my number 2, second favorite horror movie of all time. But you guys know where I'm going. My favorite horror movie of all time. My boy Michael Myers with the original OG Halloween 1978 classic. John Carpenter just gives us an absolute masterpiece. Gives us the greatest slasher of all time with Michael Myers. The Shape. Don't even get me started on this movie, guys. I could literally be sitting here talking to you guys about Halloween for another 2 hours. Easy. But we've gone long enough. You guys knew that was going to be number 1. If you've been kicking it with me, you know how much of a Halloween fan I am. Michael fanatic I am. Yeah. It doesn't get any better than Halloween 78 in my opinion. So there you go, guys. That is my list of my top 50 favorite horror movies of all time. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to get freaky and drop your top 50, feel free to do so. Don't feel obligated that you need to, but if you choose to do so, I would love to see it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm very excited for what the future holds for AOF. I'll see you on the other side. And until next time, kick it and rock on.